everybody, it's Jen from Caketastic Cakes, and I'm going to show you some basic highlights from a live stream I did recently making a Diglett cake. And again, because this was a live stream, it was a fireside I did on a site called Game Jolt. You can check the link down below if you're interested. It's a little rough. The angles are not the best. I gotta say, it could be a lot better. So if you're going to be looking at this on how to make a Diglett cake, you should be fine. However, it's not going to be the most cinematically pleasing of videos I have made in more recent times. But anyway, all right, so we're just going to pretend that you can see everything's going on. I'm going to explain it the best I can. Now, I've got a big old cake plate here. It's actually a 13 or 14-inch one. It's a big one. And what I'm doing is I'm using some fondant, some white and red fondant, and I'm going to cover the cake plate in order to make it look like a Pokeball. So I've got some white, as you can see there on the one side. I've got some red on the other side. It's going to overlap a little, but you just trim it off to make it even. And then you can barely see in the corner there. I'm pretending we can see perfectly. I added 2 black stripes to cover the seams. There's the hole in the middle where I didn't cover it with fondant. Of course you can if you want to. I did not because I'm not going to need it. It's going to be covered with a cake, so I'm saving, in this economy, like $20 worth of fondant right there. Okay, this is gum paste right here that I'm using. I'm using my 6-inch cake pan bottom to cut out a curve, and I'm going to make the brim of the hat. I chose the hat that Ash wore from the first generation of Pokemon to put on my little Diglett cake because I thought it was cute. That's really the only reason why. And so as you see, I have it curved. I cut off the 2 ends to make a straight brim, and this is going to be the brim of the hat. I'm making this first. I'm setting it on some paper towels so it'll harden up in a nice gentle curve. And I'm doing it first, like I said, in order to give it time to set. So when I'm ready to put it on my cake, it will be firm enough that it shouldn't fall apart and be a mess. Now, this is an 8-inch layer there I just put on the bottom. And now I'm going to have 2 6-inch cakes. These cakes aren't pretty. These cakes, I didn't cut them in half. I didn't put extra layers of icing in them. I'll tell you why in just a second. But for now, all I'm doing is rounding off the top edge of the top cake. Okay, back to the cakes. They look kind of like a hot mess because I was experimenting. You always hear about people putting cakes in their freezer. They seal them up, make them nice and airtight. They're good for so long, and I wanted to see how these would work. So I had the purple cakes, which were about 5 months old, I think, and then the white cake, or the yellow cake, that was 1 month old. And I'm just covering everything in chocolate icing. Since this was my experiment cake, I figured chocolate icing makes everything taste better. So when I taste these cakes to see how they turn out after being frozen for so long, chocolate icing, right? Makes sense. All right, I'm going to pop that in the refrigerator for a little while. And you can see it's back on the counter because I brought it out. I'm going to now cover the top of the cake in some brown fondant. Again, this is Diglett, so brown, there you go. Yeah, and I'm only going to cover the top part. The bottom part's going to be the base, I guess, where he comes up out of his tunnel. If it is a tunnel, I'm assuming it's not part of his body. I don't know. I don't know Pokemon anatomy that well. But I covered up the top part, as you can see. I'm just using a pair of kitchen scissors. They are clean, don't worry, to trim off the extra around the bottom. I'm not exactly sweating it for neatness and precision, but along the bottom, you can see it's a little jaggedy. It'll be all covered up, so not as worried about it. I do want my Diglett to look nice, though, so I am smoothing him off as best I can. And if you have seen any of my videos, you know the smoothing part is not my strong suit, but I get the A for effort. Now, I'm using some gray fondant here. I'm rolling it out long. It's hard to see. And I'm going to cover that bottom cake layer, the 8-inch cake layer, with that gray fondant. I also put it onto the cake board. I don't know if you can see. Yes, now you can see. Alright, so the strip was a little too thick, so I trimmed it off, and it's also now flat along the bottom, which is good. I wrap it around my cake, and I realize, oh no, it's a little too short, but actually it's fine. It doesn't matter, because again, I'm going to cover it all up, so, like, whatever. So I have some extra that I rolled out. I just trim it off so it matches up to the edges. There, look at that shot. It's like perfect. Match it up, make my seams, you know, go together as best I can. And once again, try to smooth everything and make it look nice and pretty for the camera. So there you go. And you could probably notice there's a couple creases right in the front of my Diglett's head there. Up at the top, I was seeing how the brim of the hat was fitting, so it's just some marks. Don't worry about that. Pretend it's not there. Okay, I'm adding a couple of eyes to my Diglett. It's just some black fondant. I made them nice and long, kind of bean-shaped or hot dog shaped or whatever kind of shape you want to call it. So that's there, and I'm also going to add a nose. The nose is just a big piece of pink fondant. It's attached with a little bit of water on the back, and you just make it again like a big old, I don't know, hot dog tic tac, as long as it's rounded off on both ends but straight up and down in the middle. And I felt like, yeah, I had to use a little bit more water to make it stick. Okay, now I've got a face on there, and he's adorable, and I love him, and he's my new best friend. And I'm going to now continue with the base of the cake. I'm just taking some more of the gray fondant that I wrapped around the bottom, that 8-inch ring, and I marbled in some black fondant. I just twisted it in, mixed it up a bit, as you see, so it's a darker color. You can also see a little bit of striation and that kind of thing going on because, yeah, super fancy over here with my Pokemon cake. I'm just rolling balls in my hand and then spreading them, kind of pressing them to shape all around, and those seams that were so ugly before, you don't even see them. Now, I do have a lot of spaces between my big stones so that you can see that light gray background showing through. So I'm just taking some more of that same marbly dark gray and making small pieces and pushing it in between the rocks. So I'm just kind of filling in the cracks, as it were. And I keep doing that until I'm happy with it. Now, I've seen a lot of pictures of Diglett where he's got brown dirt around him instead of the gray rocks. I've seen others with the gray rocks, but I figured since he's already brown, you know, I didn't want to do more brown on top of brown on top of brown. So yeah, gray rocks. Now, if you're going to do Diglett, you got to give him his little highlights, a couple little beans for the eyes, like tic-tac shapes, and a very gentle oval for his nose. I actually edited out multiple minutes of me struggling to get a highlight on his nose just for me to put barely not a circle on there. But he's so cute. I love him. Okay, now, as far as the hat goes, again, you could stop right here because he's an adorable Diglett, or you could take it a little further, and I went with the Gen 1 hat for that Ash War because that's the show I watched when I was younger. I had the white brim there. It's just like you see, it's got the flat bit on the front that curves with his head, two little peaks that go up in the side, like a very loose, not even a triangle, more like a half circle is what I want to say. And then the rest of it, I just wrapped red around, and this is all fondant again. I wrapped some red around it to shape it to the hat, trimmed off any extra, and then I'm using this stitch pattern making wheel tool thing. It makes like a stitch pattern when you roll along to go along the edge of the hat, up the middle. I got some red on him. I took it off. You didn't need to see that. Pretend it didn't happen, just like some of the other stuff I got going on in here. A lot of pretending it didn't happen. I see this you couldn't see. I just cut out the not a Nike shaped swishy thing out of some light blue, stuck it on his hat, used some toothpicks, which I typically never do, but this was my cake and I'm not going to eat it. Well, eat the toothpicks. So stuck them in my brim that had time to set up, polished off that red dot I made, put a little ball on top of his hat, and he's adorable. Like, how cute is that, right? Diglett gets dumped on a lot for being kind of a lame Pokemon, but he makes an adorable cake. So yeah, that was my last Game Jolt Fireside. If you guys want to see more live streams, be sure to follow me here on YouTube. And if you are interested in Game Jolt, it's like a social media site. It tends to be for younger people who are interested in video games, anime, you know, just that kind of stuff, more the younger pop culture-y kind of stuff. So you can use the link below, and it's free, so don't worry about that. And check it out for yourself. So yeah, thanks for watching. I hope you found this video helpful, even though it wasn't the best angles and such. But anyway, it was fun. So thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe because it does help me out. I've got a ton of other videos out there as well as lots of Pokemon stuff, so check that out. And as always, thanks for watching Caketastic Cakes.